Welcome to Knowledge Valley IAS, IPS, IFS. Today we are going to see the second part of the polity discussion of Vision magazine. We are going to cover three areas today. First is reservation policy. Second is online justice delivery. And the third area that we are going to cover is regulation of government advertisements. So let's see the reservation policy. Now, what was the need of this discussion on the reservation policy? The Supreme Court's 5-judge constitutional bench discussed or gave a judgment that 100% reservation for scheduled tribes in scheduled areas of a state is not possible or permissible. So the Supreme Court's 5-judge bench, remember 5-judge bench gave a decision that 100% reservation for scheduled tribes in scheduled area is not allowed. Now what are the details regarding this? The state of Andhra Pradesh earlier in 2000 had issued providing 100% reservation to the scheduled tribes, of which 33% will be for women. So remember, Andhra Pradesh had said in 2000. Then we have 1986, Governor of Andhra Pradesh, in exercise of the 5th schedule, also directed the post of teachers in educational institutions. In the scheduled tribe areas of the state to be reserved for scheduled tribes. So 1986, we had the governor saying that the scheduled tribe, in the scheduled tribe areas, the teacher's post should go to the scheduled tribe castes. And the third is, so these are the 2 points that you have to remember. First is in Andhra Pradesh, that is in 2000, and in 1986 what the governor said. So what does the Supreme Court have to say about it? Supreme Court held that 100% reservation is discriminatory and not permissible at all. It violates three articles. One is Article 14, Article 15, Article 16. 14 is equality before law, 15 is discrimination against citizens, 16 is equal opportunity. Okay, so just remember this. 100% reservation to the scheduled tribes and the scheduled tribes will be, if you have 100% reservation for the scheduled tribes in these areas as said in 2000 and 1986, what will happen if this is set up or this is established? It deprives the right of general category, scheduled caste, OBCs, and that is the other backward castes. And the Supreme Court also spoke about the Indra Sawhney case, that is the Mandal case, where the Supreme Court had said 50% reservation only can be given, you can't take it to 100%. So the judgment includes equal opportunity and pursuit of choice. And secondly, it talks about the 5th schedule of the Constitution. Okay, now equal opportunity and choice, that was heard, and that is why the judgment was there. And it clarifies the 5th schedule of the Constitution, where the governors are given some power. So we have 12 schedules. Out of 12 schedules, 5th schedule and 6th schedule is for the tribals. Now in the 5th schedule of the Constitution, as I told you, it is for the scheduled tribes. It comes from Article 244 of the Constitution. So we have 12 schedules, and out of it I had told you 5th and 6th is for scheduled tribes. So the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule. So remember, 6th schedule is for Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. So remember, 6th schedule is for Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. 5th schedule is all tribal areas except Northeast. So just remember this. All tribal areas except Northeast is 5th schedule. 6th schedule is Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, AMTM. So just a way to remember. Now 5th schedule comes from Article 244. So the 5th schedule talks about, contains of the provisions regarding administration of scheduled areas other than in the northeast. So just as I told you, other than in the northeast. At present, scheduled areas have been declared in the state of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha and Rajasthan. So according to the fifth schedule, in these states the scheduled areas have been declared. So again I am repeating: Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan. Scheduled area in a state is notified by the order of the president after consultation with the governor. Governor submits a report annually or whenever president requires regarding the administration of such areas. So governor is an important part in the scheduled areas. Each state having scheduled areas must have a tribal advisory council consisting of 20 members. 3/4 of the members have to be representatives of the scheduled tribes in state legislative assembly, and the governor is empowered to direct that any particular law of the parliament and state assembly is either not applicable or can be applied with certain modification and exceptions to the scheduled areas. So remember, in the scheduled areas, that is in schedule 5, the governor becomes very powerful. So first, as I told you, it comes from schedule 5, comes from article 244, just by heart. These are the states that you should remember. Scheduled areas are notified by the president. It is done with a consultation with the governor, and governor keeps on giving a report, submits a report. There is a tribal advisory council in every scheduled areas in the state. There is a tribal advisory council. 3/4 of the members have to be representatives of scheduled tribes in the state legislative assembly. So if there is a tribal advisory council and there is a declared as a scheduled area, 3/4 members of this tribal advisory council should be represented by the scheduled tribes. And the most important, governor is empowered to direct that any particular law of the parliament and state assembly is either not applicable or can be modified to the scheduled areas. So governor is powerful in the scheduled areas according to article 244, that is 5th schedule. Now when we talk about reservation, what are the things that it affects? Which are the articles that affects the reservation? We are going to check. So article 15. Article 15(4) allows the state to make any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes. So remember, socially and educationally backward classes of the citizens or for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So article 15 talks about reservation in these main areas, that is socially and educationally backward classes or scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. This provision was extended in admission in educational institutions by 93rd Amendment Act 2006. This reservation can also be done in the private institutions except minority institutions. So just remember, in article 15(4) there is a reservation for the socially and educationally backward classes and scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, also in private but not in minority institutions. Article 16(4) allows to make provisions for the reservation for employment. So article 15(4) is in the educational institutions, article 16(4) is employment. So remember, educational here, employment here. Okay. Article 46 states that state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interest of the weaker sections, in particular the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So DPSP article 46 also talks about reservation. So these are the things which you can say protects or backs reservation. Then article 243D provides for reservation for seats in the SC/STs in every panchayat. So 243D, remember. 243T for the municipality. 330 is Lok Sabha for the scheduled tribes and scheduled caste. 332 provides for reservation of seats for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in legislative assembly. So which are the articles that you'll remember? Very important, many a time such questions are asked in UPSC. Which of the articles talks about reservation? So remember Article 15.4, Article 16.4, that is employment. Then you have Article 46 DPSP. Then you have 243D, that is Panchayati Raj. 243T, that is municipality. You have 330 for the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, that is the parliament, and 332 for the assembly. 15.4, 16.4, 46 to 243D, 243T, 332, 330. Just remember this by heart. Now, reservation in Indian context. Now, what do you mean by reservation? Reservation is a form of affirmative action. A percentage of seats are reserved in the government service and educational institutions. So, many times in mains, what is the context of reservation? It is affirmative action. Affirmative action means we follow the possibility or the principle of equity, not equality. Not equality. Meaning is equity focus on treating people with same circumstances equally. Okay, so if you keep everybody equal, if you focus on equality, still there is going to be exploitation. So we focus on equity. Affirmative action means doing something more positive for the weak people. That is the concept from where reservation comes. 10% reservation to economically weaker sections was recently provided in 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act. So remember, if question asks what is 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act, that's for the economically weaker section. It amended Article 15 and Article 16. Reservation is provided for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs at the rate 15, 7.5 and 27 respectively. This number is also important. 15 for the SCs, 7.5 for the STs, 27 for the OBCs. So again, sometimes question comes, 15% scheduled caste, 7.5% scheduled tribes, OBCs 27%. You can use this in your essays and your mains answer. Persons with Disability Act 1995 provides for reservation for persons with disabilities in India. Under the Act, persons with disabilities got 3%. Remember, Person with Disabilities Act 1995, 3% reservation. So remember, first of all, reservation comes from affirmative action, a very important point, that is give more power to the weak. Second is 10% for the economically weaker section, 15%, 7.5%, 27% for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs respectively, and for persons with disability 3%. So all the reservations covered very nicely. So till now what we have seen, so we saw what do you mean by schedule 5, fifth schedule. Governor is important, as I told you, and sixth schedule is AMTM. Then we saw which are the articles which affects reservation. Articles 15.4, 16.4, 46 to 43T, 243D, 330, 332. Then we saw the four areas where reservation is there. Just keep all these things by heart in your mind. The context is Andhra Pradesh, where they have been giving 100% reservation. Supreme Court says not allowed. Some cases regarding reservation. State of Madras versus Champakam Dorai Rajan case. Okay, so 1951, the first amendment you must remember. Now let's see the various judicial pronouncements regarding reservation, that is the judgments. So important of them are, first of all, the most important is Champakam Dorai Rajan case, that is 1951. This is the first important pronouncement for judicial, that is the judgments regarding reservation. So what happened in this? The Supreme Court upheld the decision of Madras High Court, which struck down a government order of 1927 regarding caste-based reservation. So what did Supreme Court do? It upheld the Madras High Court's decision. What Madras High Court had done, it had squashed, or it had cut down caste-based reservation in government jobs. And Article 15.4 was added, and in Article 15.4 it is said only those reservations are allowed which is for the socially and educationally backward castes or class. It is not allowed for each and every caste. So this was a very important judgment in State of Madras versus Champakam Dorai Rajan case. The second and the most important is the Indra Sawhney case. Okay, in Indra Sawhney case, also known as the Mandal case, the 9-judge constitutional bench of the Supreme Court by 6/3, 6:3 majority held that decision of the union government to reserve 27% of jobs for the government in the government sector with elimination of creamy layer. So 27 jobs, 27% was upheld according to the Indra Sawhney, but a concept of creamy layer had brought in. Creamy layer is that layer which is in the OBC. So creamy layer is not for the SC/ST. In the OBC, whoever is doing good, they are not allowed to take these reservation, and the reservation should not exceed 50%. So second is the Indra Sawhney. Third is the M Nagaraj case. So remember, first is the Champakam Dorai Rajan, second is the Indra Sawhney case, third is M Nagaraj case. M Nagaraj case is 2006. Now what happened in the M Nagaraj case? A 5-judge constitutional bench of the Supreme Court validated Parliament's decision to extend the reservation to include promotions with 3 conditions. So M Nagaraj case was reservation in promotion, but 3 conditions. First is provide proof for the backwardness. Second is quantifiable data showing that there is inadequacy of representation. Third is how the reservation in promotion will help or would further the administrative efficiency. So Champakam Dorai Rajan, Indra Sawhney, M Nagaraj. In M Nagaraj, 3 points. Remember these 3 points. Provide proof for backwardness. Give a data to show that inadequacy of representation. And third is how reservation in promotion will help for the administrative efficiency. So M Nagaraj is mostly for the reservation in promotion. Now to counter this comes the most important and the recent one, that is the Jarnail Singh versus Lakshmi Narayan Gupta. So Supreme Court held that the government need not collect the quantifiable data to demonstrate backwardness. So these two were cancelled. Quantifiable data and provide proof for the backwardness was cancelled by the Supreme Court. Okay, so just remember what again we'll say. So it's Champakam Dorai Rajan, then it is in 1951, then you have Indra Sawhney, it is 1992, and then you have 2006, that is M Nagaraj, and then 2018 Jarnail Singh versus Lakshmi Narayan Gupta, 2018, remember. Now recent, you have another very important case, that is Karnataka extension of consequential seniority to the government servants promoted on the basis of reservation. Now what do you mean by consequential seniority? So consequential seniority is, say for example, there is X who is from the general category, he's in the job, that is IAS. Then you have Y from the SC, he's a junior for X, but because of reservation promotion, Y gets promoted to the next level. Though year wise X had come first, but because of his reservation in promotion, and then he going to the senior position, after some years X will come in that position, but in this case Y will still remain a senior, though it might sound unequal, but this is consequential seniority. There was a issue, consequential seniority should be allowed or no. Karnataka extension of consequential seniority to government servants said it is allowed. So the enactment provides for consequential seniority to SCs and STs. So it means even if the SC/ST candidate joins in later, if he gets reservation in promotion and goes ahead, he will be considered as senior at the next level. So consequential seniority allows for reserved category candidates to retain seniority over general category peers if a reserved category candidate is promoted before a general category candidate because of the reservation in promotion. So remember, X and Y, X is general, he is SC, he gets promoted, he will be a senior later if X is promoted. So that's consequential seniority. So in effect, consequential seniority undoes the catch-up rule that allowed general category candidates to catch up to reserved category candidates. So this catch-up rule is not there. Y, being an SC, getting promotion using reservation, will be considered as senior. So in this we saw what is the role, what is schedule we saw what is Schedule 5, we saw what is Schedule 6, what are the various articles which affects the reservation. Then we saw numbers, that is the percentage of reservation for various sections, and finally some judgments. And we know the context, it is because 100% was given to the STs in Andhra Pradesh. Next, what we are going to discuss is online justice delivery. Supreme Court recently used Article 142 and asked for all the courts to extensively start using video conferencing for judicial proceedings. Now, this is the context. Supreme Court has asked all the courts to start video conferencing for judicial proceedings. Now, how did Supreme Court do that? It used Article 142 of the Constitution. What does Article 142 of the Constitution say? Article 142 of the Constitution allows Supreme Court to pass any order for doing complete justice in matter pending before it. This was asked in 2019 prelims paper. So again I am repeating, Article 142 allows Supreme Court to pass any order for doing complete justice in any case or matter pending before it. Kerala High Court already has started proceedings through video conferencing. So Kerala, you must remember, always ahead of all the other states in various aspects. So it has already started video conferencing and also live streamed various proceedings and various steps. Now we'll see. So we have e-courts mission mode project of Department of Justice, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India. So whenever if you have to answer in mains or in essay, just remember, for digitization of the justice system, e-courts mission mode project has been started by Department of Justice, Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India, providing video conference facilities for 488 court complexes and 342 jails. So just remember this e-courts mission mode project. So two facts you have to remember: Article 142 and e-courts mission modes project. Okay. Yes, how online delivery of judicial help or judicial services helps in tackling various issues in the judicial. So how will it help is, first is, it will help in clearing all the high pendency of the cases which are there. 22% of the pendency of cases from 2006 to 2019 across all the courts. So just remember, so having this online video conferencing, we can clear off all the cases. So high pendency. Second is enhance efficiency of the court. So the courts will become more efficient. There will be reduction in paperwork, proper supervision and control over subordinate courts. We know the Supreme Court and the High Courts have control or supervisions over the subordinate courts by various methods, that is by asking for returns, etc. So proper supervision can be done. So and then tackling infrastructure constraints. We know a lot of we are seeing over here a lot of savings regarding the courts, that is building staff and infrastructure and security and transport. So infrastructure constraints will be tackled. Judicial data will be available. So just remember, 245th Law Commission report, 245th law says that the lack of comprehensive and accurate data relating to cases from courts across the country poses a hurdle to efficient policy making by the government. So there is a lack of data, because of which policy making becomes difficult, and improving transparency and accountability in the judicial system. Okay, so and finally, ease of doing business. So which are the points that you should remember? First is high pendency, enhanced efficiency of the courts, reduction of the paperwork, proper supervision and control, tackling of infrastructure constraints, availability of the data, improving transparency and accountability, and finally ease of doing business. So just repeat it, by heart it in your mind. These points are important for your mains. So high pendency, enhanced efficiency, reduction of paperwork, proper supervision, tackling infrastructure constraints, availability of judicial data, improving the transparency and accountability, and finally ease of doing business. Now what are the challenges which are there? Lack of investment in court and IT infrastructure. So these are the challenges why we can't set up the video conferencing or the IT. It's because of lack of investment. Second is lack of technical know-how. Third is low awareness amongst the litigants and advocates. Fourth is digital divide in access to justice. Interdepartmental challenges, cybersecurity threats, and procedural problems. So what are the challenges? Again, lack of investment, so funds are less. Technical know-how, so people are not aware of these how to use these things. Awareness is not there. Digital divide, so those people who are rich and those people who are from the urban areas, they will benefit. Interdepartmental challenges, so there is lack of coordination, communication. Cyber security, that's very very important. We see in national security cyber security like hacking and other things. And procedural problems like admissibility and authenticity, etc. Okay, so just you have to remember these are the challenges. So we saw what are the positive points, we saw what are the challenges repeating again. Investment is a challenge, technical know-how, low awareness, digital divide, interdepartmental challenges, cyber security, and procedural problems. Now let's see the way forward. So let's see, since we know the challenges, let's see what are the various what is the various way forward. Okay, first is development of support infrastructure. We saw there is no investment, there is no infrastructure, so develop support infrastructure. Next is make rules for use of electronic evidences. So there was issues in the verifying and how we'll use it, so make rules for it. Design and impart training, so there was no awareness and people didn't know how to use so design and impart regular training courses. Create a user-friendly e-courts mechanism and awareness generation, and clear rules on data privacy. So make an infrastructure, give training, create awareness, make rules, and clear rules on data privacy. So earlier I had discussed about the e-courts mission mode projects. So let's see what is the e-court mission mode project. It is a pan-India project monitored and funded by Department of Justice, Ministry of Law and Justice, and Government. So this we had just discussed earlier. The objective of e-court project is to provide designated services to the citizens as well as courts by ICT enablement of all districts and subordinate courts in the country. So to provide services in ICT, that is information communication technology. The services being delivered to citizens include status of registration of cases, case status, case list, daily order sheets, and final orders. So these all things will be provided. E-courts service mobile application and e-courts national portal have also been developed. So just remember, e-courts mission mode project, it is by the Ministry of Law and Justice. It is to make every courts, every subordinate courts, district courts information technology savvy, and it helps in registration of cases, case status, case list, and filing orders. And e-courts, you have the mobile application and e-courts national portal. Now next, for increasing the technology or making video conferencing easy or making our courts technology savvy, there are other programs also. So other initiatives are National Judicial Data Grid. It's a web portal that provides data related to number of cases pending in any court. So remember, e-court mission mode project, there is this National Judicial Data Grid for the number of pending cases. Then you have the Judicial Service Center has been established, all computerized courts which serve as a single window for filing. So Judicial Service Center is a single window for filing. National Judicial Data Grid is for pending cases, and e-courts mission mode project. So now all these, why are we studying? See, in the mains, when the question comes on what are the steps for making our courts better or something on the judicial reform, so you can put these points: e-courts mission mode project, National Judicial Data Grid for the pending cases, Judicial Service Center for single window for filing. Then we have e-committee of Supreme Court. This is a committee of the Supreme Court to assist the Chief Justice of India in formulating national policy on computerization of Indian judiciary. So just remember, it's a committee by the Supreme Court for this. It's national policy for computerization of Indian judiciary. Then you have the e-re-engineering committee of the high courts, so that all the processes in the high courts can be re-engineered. So committee, so two committees, for one is for the Supreme Court and one e-committee on Supreme Court, and re-engineering committee on the high courts. Then you have legal information management and briefing system, LIMS. It is a web-based portal developed by Department of Legal Affairs. So just remember, Department of Legal Affairs, Ministry of Law and Justice. We also saw the e-courts mission mode project, Ministry of Justice. So just remember, same Ministry of Law and Justice is also having LIMS, that is a portal for legal information management and briefing system. And finally, interoperable criminal justice system. It is aimed at integrating crime and criminal tracking network, CCTNS system, very important project, with the e-courts and e-prisons database, as well as with other pillars of the criminal justice such as forensics, prosecution, and then you have juvenile homes in a phased manner. So which are the various initiatives? So just remember, e-courts mission mode project, National Judicial Data Grid for the cases pending, Judicial Service Center for the single window filing, e-committee and re-engineering committee are committees for making the Supreme Court and the High Courts better respectively. LIMS, remember, for legal information management and briefing system, again under the Department of Legal Affairs, Ministry of Law and Justice. And finally we have the ICJS, that is the interoperable criminal justice system by CCTNS, that is crime and criminals tracking network and systems. Okay, the next topic of discussion is regulation of government advertisements. Why news? Some states have responded to a letter by the Letter of Information Broadcasting Ministry regarding constitution of committees to implementing Supreme Court guidelines on the issue of government advertisements. So there was an issue of government advertisements. Supreme Court had given guidelines, and many states have written letters to this Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Why is this advertisements from the government very important? So rationale behind government advertisements. First is sharing information on government initiatives. So whatever initiatives, programs, policies the government brings, so you can share the information. Second is right to information. It is a fundamental right under Article under Article 21 as well as under Article 19. Right to Information Act is under Article 19 and also yes under Article 21. Third is nature of advertisements. So as per government, 60% of the advertisement released by the Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity on behalf of various government agencies are related to recruitment, tenders and public notices. So remember, 60% of the advertisements released by Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity are for recruitment, tender and public notices. And finally, measures to check advertisements. There exist substantive guidelines regulating the government's advertisements issued by erstwhile DAVP, that is Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity. So the rationale behind the government advertisements, remember, so sharing information, then right to information, then you have the nature of advertisements, mostly recruitment, tender, public notices, and the guidelines which are present. Now, why the Supreme Court had given this guidelines and asked the states to get in the to make committees on government advertisements? It was a writ petition. You must remember, writ petition by two organizations, that is Common Cause and Center for Public Interest Litigation. So these two organizations had taken a PIL in the Supreme Court on the misuse of public funds during or issuing government advertisements. There was misuse of public funds happening, and there was a writ petition which was filed, one by Common Cause and the other by Center for Public Interest Litigation. And it was so the issue was the misuse of public funds, plus it was used for political advances. It asked the court for restraining the union and the state governments from using public funds for advertising by laying down guidelines. So it asked the courts to give guidelines so that the money cannot be misused and not be used for political motives. So what did the court do? The court appointed a committee to examine the best practices in order to demarcate the permissible advertising. The committee submitted its report to the Supreme Court in September 2014, and that is why the committee said that every state should, the Supreme Court said that every state should make up committees and let the Supreme Court know about the policies. All this it did with the power of Article 142. So we had seen in the earlier also during reservation and all, when we were speaking, it was according to Article 142 that the Supreme Court has the power for the best interest of justice to take any decision, and that is why these decisions. Let's see what are the guidelines it put. So just remember, we are seeing the guidelines for content regulation of government advertising. So let us see the guidelines. First is, it gave guidelines on the scope of advertisements. It should be a copy and creative put out in print, electronic, outdoor or digital media. It does not include classified advertisements. So it does not include for classified advertisements like for jobs and etc. It includes copy and creatives put out in print, electronic and outdoor. It does not include classified advertisements. 5 guiding principles in the content was it should be relating to the government responsibilities. The contents of the government advertisement should be relevant to government's constitutional and legal obligation, as well as citizens' rights and entitlements. So the advertisement should have all these things, rather than sometimes we have people wishing birthday wishes, etc., etc. It can be used. So the government has given these, the Supreme Court has given these guidelines. It should be related to government responsibilities. Secondly, in an objective manner. It should not be politically motivated. It should be objective, fair and accessible manner. Every effort shall be made to pre-test the material on a large scale campaign with target audience. So have a pilot project and then bring it. Should not be directed at promoting political interest. So 3 points again, remember, related to government responsibilities, present in objective manner, should not be for promoting political interest of a ruling party. They should not include, so this is an important point, they should not include the name of the ruling party, party symbol, logo, attack any views or actions in opposition parties in any form. They should not include photographs of government leaders, except, so whose photographs are allowed is President, Governor, Prime Minister, Chief Minister, other ministers and Chief Justice of India. So just remember, it should be related to government responsibilities, objective, not to promote political interest, cost effective on advertising, should not put in a lot of money in advertising. It's not a company, it's the government. Compliance with procedures, and there should be proper legal requirements and financial regulations that needs to be followed. Finally, compliance and enforcement. A 3-member body consisting of people with neutrality and impartiality should be appointed to guide these things and see to it that this is followed. It shall ensure the implementation of these direction. It will address the complaints from general public on violation of the guidelines. So just remember, when you have to, what are the guidelines? So first is the government responsibilities. Second is it should show the objectivity. Then it is not to promote political interests, cost effective, compliance with all the procedures, and to see to it that compliance is done, a 3-member body. Now, why is this need to regulate the government advertisements? So just remember, government advertisements were happening in large number and a lot of public money was being misused. So there was 2 organizations who brought in the PIL, and this is the guidelines given by the Supreme Court. Why is the need of all these regulations? First of all, projection of vested interests. So many government advertisements are projecting vested interest. There is lack of clarity over public use. It should be there should be test of reasonableness and public interest. It is against the democratic setup. When we say against the democratic setup, what does it mean? The incumbent government, that is the government in power, has an advantage over other parties. Here they can freely, using public money, can advertise themselves. Such actions do not follow free and fair elections. So there is no concept of free and fair election. Government is using the public money to advertise. It also allows government to patronize publication or media organizations. So we have seen many channels favoring the government, and it patronizes using this public money. The government will only give advertisers to those media houses which are close to the government. So this is selective dispersal. So remember, when we talk about why regulation is needed, first is projection of vested interests. Always political parties will advertise themselves. Lack of clarity over public use. Sometimes it is actually for the messaging of the people, but what message? Is it a political message? We do not know. Then against the democratic setup, exponential rise in costs. So we have seen through various RTI, around 40% of the money is being used every year. So 40% is increase every year in the costs of these advertisements. As per Parliamentary Committee Report 2070, remember, on the demands for grants of the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, the government expenditure appears skewed in favor of election-bound states. So where elections are going to happen, more advertisements are put over there. So that is why this is needed. So very important point. It can be asked in the mains why these media needs to be, or government advertisements needs to be regulated. First is projection of vested interest, lack of clarity. Lack of clarity means we do not know it is political or citizen messaging. Then there is against the democratic setup. As we know, more money put in these media channels which are towards the government. It hurts the free and fair election. Exponential rise in costs. And in those states where elections are going to be held, government puts in a lot of advertisements. Now let's see what are the status. So we saw the judgment given by the Supreme Court, the guidelines. We saw why those guidelines are important, and now we are seeing what is the status of the implementation. Following the direction, the Ministry of Broadcasting and Information issued an order containing the Supreme Court guidelines would function as a stopgap arrangement until a legislation comes through. So there is a legislation which is going to be brought in. The guidelines are just a stopgap. A 3-member committee would be constituted at the central as well as the state level. The next issue is of appointment of committee. The Union government constituted a committee in 2016. However, there were criticism because mostly the committee was close to the political party in power. So we'll see status of implementation. First, the government brought in the guidelines which was given by the Supreme Court as a stopgap, and they said they will make a legislation, and a 3-member committee will be set up. 3-member committee was set up in 2016, but this was actually the containing people which was close to the political party in power. The state government also brought in the committees. However, most of the state governments, except some like Karnataka, Goa, Manipur, Mizoram and Nagaland, have not constituted nor in process of constituting any such committees. Now, so some have made the committees, some have not. Those committees which are made are close to the political parties in power. Now there is some conflict of interest. What has happened? The government merged the previous department into Bureau of Outreach and Communication. Now what is Bureau of Outreach and Communication? This is Bureau of Outreach and Communication. It was set up in 2017 by integrating Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity, Directorate of Field Publicity and Song and Drama Division. So we had seen Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity is important for regulating the various advertises. It provides communication solutions to various agencies. It is engaged in educating people. It is headed by Director General and manned by various officers of Indian Information Services IIS and ex-cadre personnel of erstwhile DAVP, DFP and SNDD, that is Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity, Directorate of Field Publicity and Song and Drama Division. So very important, Bureau of Outreach and Communication. Now what is the problem in this? There is a conflict of interest. Its mandate is to scrutinize the advertisements and report any alleged violation of the guidelines. This goes against the autonomy of the committee, which becomes dependent on this government's body inputs. Earlier also DAVP looked after government's advertising and publicity and was also responsible for disbursing funds to the committee which regulates the government advertisements. So how can you have the same body which puts the advertisements look after the advertisements and the guidelines? So that is the conflict of interest in Bureau of Outreach and Communication. So there was flouting of norms. Various state governments have shown disregard to Supreme Court guidelines. Example, the Vikas Yatra in Chhattisgarh was advertised using government funds, showcasing photographs, etc. In Chhattisgarh, we know now the government has changed. Conclusion: in the past, various bodies, including Law Commission report on electoral reforms, CAG, Election Commission, have repeatedly demanded for standards to regulate such advertising. The ECI has recommended any advertisement highlighting achievements of the governments should be prohibited for a period of 6 months before elections. So we have seen CAG, ECI and the various bodies demanding that the elections should be free, and before 6 months before elections there should not be advertising allowed. The flouting of these rules also raised important concerns about the use of public funds in political campaigns and rallies. So we saw reservation, the topic on reservation today. We saw the topic on government advertisements, and this is the end of polity section in April 2020. Remember, the art and science of asking question is source of all knowledge.